So here's a stat that kind of blew my mind. Roughly 15 to 20% of married couples are in what researchers call a sexless marriage, meaning they're having sex fewer than 10 times a year.
Wait, 10 times a year is the threshold? That's less than once a month.
Right, and that's not some fringe group. That's like 1 in 5 or 1 in 6 couples walking around just not doing it.
Okay, but I think we need to separate two things immediately. There's we're not having sex and we're both fine with it versus we're not having sex and someone is suffering. Those are completely different situations.
Totally fair. And honestly, I think the conversation usually comes up because someone is suffering. Nobody's Googling, is my sexless relationship normal, if they're happy about it?
That's a good point, actually.
But here's my take. And I know this might sound blunt. I think for most people, yeah, it's a deal breaker. Or at least it should be taken seriously as one.
I'd push back on that. I think calling it a blanket deal breaker puts way too much weight on sex as the defining feature of a relationship.
I'm not saying it's the defining feature, but it's a pretty massive one. Like, what separates a romantic partner from a really close roommate you love?
Emotional intimacy, shared life goals, commitment, vulnerability, there's a whole list. Sex is on that list, but it's not the only thing on it.
Sure, but be honest. If you started dating someone and they said up front, "Hey, I'm never going to want to have sex with you," most people would walk away. Most people.
At the start of a relationship? Probably. But we're also talking about long-term partnerships where life happens, kids happen, illness happens, stress, medication, aging. There are a million reasons sex drops off.
And that's real. I'm not dismissing that, but I think there's a difference between a temporary dry spell because of like a newborn and a years-long pattern where one partner has just checked out physically.
Agreed. Context matters enormously here.
And here's the thing that bugs me. There's this narrative, especially online, that if you leave a relationship because of sex, you're shallow, like you're the bad guy.
I've seen that too, and I think that's unfair. Sexual compatibility is a legitimate need.
Thank you. It's a need, not a luxury.
But, and here's where I get cautious, I think people sometimes frame it as a deal breaker before they've actually done the hard work of communicating about it. Like, have you actually told your partner how you feel? Have you gone to therapy together?
That's fair. I'll give you that. A lot of people silently resent their partner for months or years without ever having the uncomfortable conversation.
Exactly. And sometimes the lack of sex is a symptom, not the disease. Maybe there's unresolved conflict. Maybe someone feels unappreciated. Maybe there's a mental health issue no one's addressing.
Okay, but let me flip this around. What about the person who has communicated, who has tried therapy, who has done everything right, and their partner still just doesn't want them physically? At some point, what are they supposed to do?
Then I think it becomes a legitimate reason to leave. I'm not saying people should stay in misery forever. I'm saying the order of operations matters.
Order of operations. I like that. Communicate, try to fix it, then decide.
Right. But here's another angle that doesn't get talked about enough. Asexual people exist. Some couples genuinely thrive without sex, and we shouldn't pathologize that.
100%. If both people are ace or both have low libidos and they're genuinely content, beautiful. No one should tell them their relationship is broken.
The problem is always the mismatch.
The mismatch. That's the whole thing. It's not about sex being objectively important. It's about whether both people are on the same page.
And that page can change over time, which is what makes it so tricky. You might be perfectly matched at 25 and wildly mismatched at 45.
Which is terrifying, honestly. Like, you can do everything right and still end up incompatible.
That's just the nature of long-term commitment, though. People change. The question is whether you can navigate those changes together.
Here's something else I read. Couples who have sex about once a week report the highest relationship satisfaction. But more than that, doesn't really add extra happiness. Isn't that interesting?
Wait, seriously? So it's not more is always better?
Nope. There's like a plateau. Once a week seems to be the sweet spot in the data. After that, the happiness curve flattens out.
That actually supports my point, though. It's not about having tons of sex, it's about maintaining some baseline of physical connection.
Yeah, I can see that. And I think that baseline is different for every couple, which is why blanket advice doesn't work.
We also never talk about the pressure that dealbreaker framing creates for the lower libido partner. Imagine being told your partner will leave if you don't have sex. That's not exactly going to make someone feel desire.
Okay, that's a really good point. Pressure kills desire, like nobody's getting in the mood because of an ultimatum.
It creates this awful cycle. One person feels rejected, the other feels pressured, and both feel terrible.
So what breaks the cycle? Because just communicate better feels like advice that's easy to say and hard to actually do.
I think it's professional help, honestly. A good couples therapist or a sex therapist specifically. These are people trained to navigate exactly this kind of gridlock.
And there's still so much stigma around that. People feel embarrassed to say, "We're seeing a sex therapist."
Which is wild because nobody's embarrassed to see a personal trainer. Your relationship is at least as important as your biceps.
Ha! Fair enough. Okay, so where do we land on this? Because I feel like we've actually been circling the same idea.
I think we have. A sexless relationship isn't inherently broken, but an unaddressed mismatch in sexual needs absolutely can break a relationship.
Yeah, it's not the sex itself. It's whether both people feel seen, heard, and valued in how they experience intimacy.
And whether they're willing to keep showing up for those hard conversations, even when it's uncomfortable.
So I guess the real deal breaker isn't the lack of sex, it's the lack of willingness to care about the gap.
That might be the most honest thing either of us has said today.